Okay, so there's a band playing next door and they sound like the audible equivalent of wetting the bed, so hopefully you can't hear them. In the video where I made the shoehorn, I made a faux pas calling what probably was Brazilian mahogany teak, but this is the material that I was kind of going through, and I didn't actually buy this stuff. I found it kind of thrown out, and I think actually some of this is teak and some of this is Brazilian mahogany. So the last one that I had made, the last shoehorn, the kind of more successful one, was made from this kind of material, and like in retrospect that is definitely Brazilian mahogany, but some of the material I was using before is a little bit different, and it's either teak or teak effect. There was a lot of hardwood sold over the years, especially in the UK, with that sort of title, and I'm assuming this is some sort of teak type material because it has these black marks kind of in place, but you can sort of see if I hold these two together they're very different materials, but I'm not an expert on this, so sometimes I make mistakes. But I do also have a book which I should use as a reference, but man, this is some boring reading here. So there should be some examples of wood. So if we can go to the teak, maybe we can see the difference. Well, there's the mahogany. You can see the variation in those two. I mean, that is really red and that's quite orange, and that's what I normally assume is mahogany, is something of that colour. But from reading a little bit around the material, it seems that quite old mahogany does darken with age. Obviously this isn't the best kind of example of the images and grains of a particular species of timber, because you just don't really see enough detail in some of these books, and it's more for effect than anything. But if I hold those two up next to each other, there's a sort of similarity, a lot more of a similarity than that. So I was right and I was wrong, I just wasn't paying attention. I think the first material I was using was teak, and the second stuff was obviously some form of mahogany. But I'm not sure if there really is an empirical way to kind of work this stuff out. There is something called there is a technique called the Janka hardness test, which involves pressing a steel ball into the flesh of the timber, and based on the amount of force that was needed to get the ball halfway in, you could then refer to a chart which will allow you to identify the species of wood. But obviously you can't do that with veneer. It's only a mil thick, if that. And I don't think this book actually even goes into the Janka stuff, and that's what I need. I need some of this kind of equipment to kind of stare into the material. Let's see if I've got a magnifying glass somewhere. It's like forensic investigation. What really happened here? Let's put that to one side. We'll put those together. This is pornography for some people. That's clearly two different species. So while I've got your attention, I might as well also let you know that I have created a new channel which began as an opposite channel and just involved my name spelled backwards. But later I kind of realised what it could actually be and decided to call it Educating Savas. The title references a famous movie from the UK called Educating Rita, which starred Julie Walters as a working class woman attempting to go through an open university course, however facing the shortcomings of a hard start in life, including her tutor's drinking problem. But that's like the old form of education, not the new form. The channel is going to be an offshoot, and I'll probably migrate most of the CNC projects onto their kind of experimental stuff that I'm not really confident or sure about. It will also be a forum for me to invite people in to discuss things with me, thus the educating me bit is a little bit of a diversion from what I intended to do and what I have said I would be doing in the past. I think I made quite a bold statement in a previous video, or I've made bold statements in many videos, where I decided that I didn't want to kind of spread myself too thin over kind of multi-channel setup, but I think after thinking about it a little bit more and giving myself a bit of time to kind of weigh up the options, I think this should be kind of interesting way of not overloading a channel which is already quite heavy with subject matter. Anyway, I'll provide a link to that in this video and in the card and description, and hopefully you can follow me there